Welcome back to the Fantasy Football Clown Show. I'm your host, Ed Smith, and today we're going to dive into a 32 team franchise league, which I drafted the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, a little bit about this league. It's set up very similar to the NFL. We have 32 teams, and the rosters are 45 men total. So if we look at the 53-man roster of an NFL team, we're very close. The positions we don't have are the kicker, the punter, the long snapper, and the offensive line. So the 53 plus the 16 practice squad are players that would be eligible in this type of league. So that's what we look at. And so, how this league began was it was a lottery system, or I should say, a derby style format, and varying entry fees for year one because people that wanted to draft the Houston Texans shouldn't have to pay the same amount as somebody drafting either Tampa Bay or the Chiefs. And so, kind of some ironic things here. It's all or things to note is that now in year two, that which we're heading into, everybody does pay the same, and we've expanded the league a little bit to look a lot more like the NFL. So we have eight four-team divisions. Like I said, have the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I am in the AFC South, just like the Jaguars would be, and my schedule mirrors the Jaguars' schedule. So next year I'll have exactly identical schedule to the Jaguars through the first 13 weeks of the regular season, and then the playoffs will start. And so in the AFC there will be one bye with seven teams making the playoffs, and in the NFC likewise. And I'll play the whole way to the AFC Championship, and then obviously I'll be heading towards the championship game or the Super Bowl, whatever the league kind of chooses to call it. And just so some points of emphasis with this team. So I acquired the 2021 version of the Jaguars in the summer. So that's kind of what I started with. And then I'm able to make trades, make roster pickups to allow for that team to take its own shape. And I guess my goal really is to outperform the real life Jaguars, I guess, proving that maybe I'm better than Urban Meyer or better than the um, GM in place. So that's kind of my goal. Some of the starting positions just to kind of take note of. So we start one running back, we start two receivers, one tight end, a flex, one super flex, two defensive linemen, two linebackers, two defensive backs, and then one IDP flex for a total of 13 starters. The reason no quarterback starts in general is because we don't want, with only 32 quarterbacks, if a team or two has, several quarterbacks, then that means a team doesn't have any, and really don't want them to have to take a zero in that spot. So this allows you to start a player, even though the players can be a little bit low end. And you'll see that my team is a little bit lower end. We're building towards the future. However, with 32 teams, even a second round pick, I have the fifth pick in the second round, and we'll come back to this, but that's pick 37. So that's fairly deep in the rookie pick for my second pick overall. Now, some notes about scoring, which are important in this league setup, is that it's a full point PPR, but there's an additional point and a half for a total of 2.5 points for the tight end. So filling a tight end in is a critical piece and making sure that there is a starter there. And so a starter that's relevant, I guess you could say. And so there isn't really 32 relevant starters. So having one that's relevant is a pretty critical piece. And then there's a half point PPR bonus for running backs. So it's not terrible to put that third down back or a scat back in, and especially in the flex spot, or maybe even the super flex spot if you don't have a quarterback. So that becomes a real position and a real way to build the team. And if you had Miles Sanders, that would be great. But if you also had maybe somebody else that would be a third down back, even Bolden for New England this year would have been a piece that could have started and really helped win. There is an accelerated IDP scoring, and one thing that I took notice of is that 10 points for a defensive touchdown instead of the normal 6. So things are elevated to that level to kind of make defensive scoring be very equivalent to the offensive scoring. And so that's just a point of emphasis. How it breaks down is we have 13 starters. there's 22 bench players, 5 taxi, and then the ability to have 5 people in the IR. So that's kind of the makeup of what the team looks like. And so as you're building, you really have deep things. And so it's important to kind of dig deep and hit on those rookies, have those 22-year-olds and 23-year-olds. I'm going to address the defense first. And the reason for that is I really trade defensive players that aren't superstars naturally. And I'll take, pretty high draft capital and I'll rely on maybe the young guys to really come on and take over. And what I mean by that, so we'll look at my defensive line first. And I do have Josh Allen, wanted to keep him. I've been offered many things for him, but he kind of feels like a stalwart player that I just want to have on the team. And then I have Agba, who comes over from Miami in a trade. I have DJ Jones from the 49ers, Draymond Jones from the Broncos, Chason, and Smith kind of rounds out my 5 defensive linemen to start 2. So I do have some flexibility there, but Allen and Agba could actually be linebackers as well. And then I have Wilson, Gary from Green Bay, and Moses as my linebackers, and so start 2 there. And then Mosley, Wilson, Jenkins, and I believe it's Avery Williams, but the Williams from Atlanta, and he's young, and I have him on the taxi squad, or my 4 defensive backs. Now, I really think these change from year to year to year, even though they have a lot of points. I really feel like I can pull those off of the waiver wire, and people seem to let those go a little bit. So I try to pluck a couple here and there to just make that team strong. So not a lot of focus on the defensive side of the ball at this point, and really just trying to build a solid core, here. And so then we'll take a look at the tight end as we move to the offensive side of the ball. And remember, 2.5 point PPR, so it's something I'm focused on. However, in Jacksonville, it was before there was any trades for tight ends, so we didn't have anybody there. And so I did go get O.J. Howard, and I have DeGora from Green Bay, who's 24 years old, so something to work with there. And then O'Shaughnessy, Manhurts, and I got Josh Oliver as well. So 5 pieces there. Not a whole lot to work with, but hopefully some of these guys will start to take over. And I'll be looking for some tight ends in the draft. I mean, that'll be an area of focus. And I'm really always looking, as I make trades, to always pluck a tight end that maybe will become something. And there's a lot of extra roster spots, so I'm always looking to just plop a tight end and see if I can get one out of the woodwork and then maybe turn it into something reasonable. So really looking for tight ends. Looking at quarterbacks also, that's another piece that I think there's only 32. So always looking for as many quarterbacks that start as I can get. So have Davis Mills. Picked him up for a 3rd round pick, and we'll talk about some of the players I brought in. That made a lot of sense. I mean, because when you start talking about pick 69 or 70, something like that, it made sense to send that out and for a starting quarterback, at least at the time being. I have Trevor Lawrence, and then traded for Drew Lock, and then some backups, which become starters as the years go on. So I have Geno Smith, and he actually started a couple games for Seattle, and so that if other people don't have a starter and I play them, then that makes sense for them to be on the bench. I have Mannion from Minnesota, Josh Rosen, who was a 1st round pick in the past and has played for Atlanta, McSorley, Woodside, and Beathard. And so some of those are very low end, but they do have the ability to be backups and then maybe get that spot start. And so anytime we can get that, it's a critical time to be able to keep that away from the opponent. So really try to build the team that way, and I'll take any backup quarterbacks I can with a roster size this big, because it really controls the haves and the have-nots, and it can also build those can bring back 2nd round picks, 3rd round picks. I mean, usually not a 1st round rookie pick, but somebody will get desperate and send away a pick number 40 in a rookie draft, which will help replenish some of the wide receiver rooms as the years go on. So never bad to pick those kind of players up. When I look at the running backs, I have Miles Sanders, Myles Gaskin, so the Miles brothers, Odari Ogunbowale, Jonathan Williams, Quadri Allison, Carlos Hyde, and then Mekhi Sargent. So running back room, not much after Sanders and Gaskin, really. So it's kind of a light room, but Sanders is the front liner, obviously, as the starter, and then Gaskins I've been using in the flex, at least at this point. but which was good enough for 27th place. So we weren't really in a position to win yet. Looking at the wide receiver room, have Marvin Jones, Albert Wilson comes over from Miami, Zylstra, Fulgham, Hart, and then Agnew and Chark. I mean, that's the two to really build around, those two young guys. And T. Goodwin, which, we really don't hear much from him, or Colin Johnson. I mean, those are just dart throw, placeholders, if you will. So that's what the receiver room looks like. And of course, I'll be looking to add to that as the draft goes on, or, anything that we can do to add to that. Players that we've traded away, so far they're pretty obvious, because if you know the Jaguars, you know what we've traded away, and that's Chenault, Etienne, Miles Jack, Minshew, Schobert, Griffin, Cisco. Most recently traded away James Robinson. That was in the Miles Sanders deal, and I got a little bit more than just Miles Sanders for James Robinson. Felt like a good deal with the Robinson injury. And then the 305, and that was pick number 69, and that was even up for Davis Mills, who I thought was a starting quarterback, and it definitely weakened the opposition if you think about the Texans being in the division, and so that makes a lot of sense. And so an important piece that we should really discuss is how do you get paid in this league. And so the 8 division winners actually get their entry fee back, and so I'm really looking to go right after the Titans, the Colts, and the Texans, and so this really weakened the Texans, and been fortunate that the Colts decided to move on from Jonathan Taylor, so their running back room is a lot lesser than, if you will, currently than it was at the beginning of the year, so we don't face them. Now the Titans are really strong, and they were the division winners, and they do have AJ Brown yet, and they also have Derrick Henry. So a very strong room there currently. But I guess I'm crossing my fingers that once things begin to take off in Jacksonville, that Henry will be on the downslope of the career, and you won't be able to recover those picks, and maybe some division winners will happen. And we do play the divisional teams twice in a year, as long as they happen before week 13 or week 13 or before. And so that's an important distinction, as I'm trying to always, just take out be the division winner, and that returns some money. And then anytime that we're the high scorer in the league, so if we're one of the top 32 scores, then we get 25% of the overall entry fee. And so for each of the first 13 weeks, and then winning the championship actually is a 12 times, or 12x the money, and second place is 6x the money, and then third place is the remainder of the money to give out. So really trying to break down or take out the championship, but the goal here is to at least recover over a 10-year period and be profitable. So my thinking is one way to do that is really to win one championship in 10 years. And so that's kind of my goal. And then the rest of the money will take care of itself, in my opinion. Going to have to win a couple divisions, and that makes it, several X instead of just the 1X, that we win by winning the one championship. Some of the draft picks that we have going forward are the 105, and then we have the 37th overall, the 58th, the 60th, the 77, 81, 101, and 133. And like every other league, I'll take the best available player, as opposed to trying to focus in on a position. But with that being said, really looking to build the tight end room wherever we can, and probably looking to avoid a lot of the defense, unless we find some things that value dropping, and then we'll take some and put it on the taxi squad. And so, especially some of those later picks, we're just going to try to take some high upside guys and see where they go. I mean, we have 5 taxi spots, and all of them will be open, predominantly, and I want to fix that, fill those out with high upside guys. This is one of 3 32-team leagues that I play in, and it's the second like this, where it's a franchise league where I took over a franchise, and so really excited for this team and where it becomes. It does bring me to something I just want to address real carefully. I'm not a big fan of third place money. I guess I don't like to play a consolation game. Once you lose in the playoffs, I really feel like you should be all done. And as we approach the Super Bowl this week, I guess it gives me a chance to kind of share that. I don't feel like the 49ers are playing the Chiefs this week, on maybe FX1 or some secondary cable station just for third place. Like, it just doesn't happen in the NFL. And so, as most of the fantasy community loves the third place money, but I guess I'd rather them just sit back and watch, because the honor is to play in the championship game, and the rest of the team should be getting just preparing for the next season. And so, if I have teams that aren't in that championship game, those teams are just kind of blueprinting, doing what I'm doing right now, and getting ready for the regular season. Because, as you guys are all aware and listening to this podcast, which I'm very honored that you're doing, we're getting ready for 2022. The league is already rolled over. We're already making moves. We're already putting the groundwork in place. And so that can begin to start to happen. You get a head start on that by doing your research over the course of that final playoff run in the real NFL season. And so if you get knocked out, it really is a time to regroup and refocus and get ready for the new season that begins really fast in the fantasy world. So, with that being said, that's my stick, if you will, on third place money and loser brackets and consolation rounds and all those types of things. I mean, I'm a big fan of pay first, pay second, pay first a lot, because winning should be important. And I'm not really that interested for coming in second or all those other things, trophies and giving everybody something. And, I say regroup and get better and really fight, to live another day and make winning really a valuable thing. I mean, like here, if it was my own scoring, or I would love to see the winner get more than 12x. Like 12x in 32 teams feels like I'd love to see it be 20x. Now, like, granted, you sort of need to reward those division winners. I mean, winning the division matters in the NFL, so I guess I feel like that I understand that, but that would be my take. And I guess if you have that team that wins in a given week, I mean, I guess there's some reward there, and I can wrap my head around that. So really, I guess I would love to, set aside that third place money if it were up to me, and have it be an empire pot, and reward the guy that can run it back twice and give him like winning the lottery, because I think winning twice in a row is like unheard of, and then in a 32 team league is really unheard of. So love to reward that. That's my bend on payouts. And so I'm sure I'll do something later in the summer on payouts. But as you can see, so even though I am actually the commish of this league, I really commish to the people in the league. I don't just rule with an iron fist. I mean, so the league has said, hey, we want third place money. So third place money it is. I mean, I'm 132nd as far as that goes. I just try to uphold the rules in there. And so that is my team breakdown here. Love for you to subscribe to the channel, love for you to like the page, and love for your comments. Tell me that the Jacksonville Jaguars stink, and maybe I'm even worse than the Jacksonville Jaguars as well. Maybe I butchered this team trading away ETN. Tell me what you think. Maybe Chenault, you think he's gonna come back and be a star, and maybe I didn't get enough in the pickups I made. But really excited for this team. Think it has a chance to compete next year, but probably the following year is more realistic when things begin to take form in the Titans. And so looking ahead at future draft picks, this team also has some future firsts, and so that's an important distinction as well. So got 3 first-round picks in 23 and 2 first-round picks in 24. So, excited for maybe that breakout in 2024. That this team is just gearing up, and I think that we'll still see Trevor Lawrence under center at that point for the Jaguars. So, that gives me some glimmer of hope to really try to take out 31 other teams. So, with that being said, wish everybody a happy fantasy football day, and love to see your comments in the chat below, and we'll look forward to breaking down another team tomorrow.